Welcome back to another video, ladies and gentlemen. You guys have been asking for another absolute mad lad, so here we go. The North Hollywood Shootout. Shout out to Count Dankula if you would like me to take down my video, if not mine. Other than that, let's hop straight in. And as always, subscribe if you want to be a part of the founders. Upload every single day. You already know. Leave more mad lads down below or other videos you would like me to check out. Let's go.
If you have ever considered a life of crime, the last place that you'd probably want to rob nowadays is a bank, with security being massively ramped up and everyone using digital payments. Going in to physically rob a bank today would be as worthless as it is stupid. However, there was a time where armed robberies of banks were a much more common occurrence. Though some of these robberies would end up with one or two people getting hurt, armed robbers tended to avoid killing anyone because they just wanted to get the cash and get out of there as quickly as possible. But there was one bank robbery where this definitely was not the case. In fact, this bank robbery was so brutal, so extreme, that it completely changed the way that American police would deal with armed criminals forever. This is going to sound like I'm describing a scene from an exaggerated 80s action movie, but I'm not. This really happened. The North Hollywood Shootout.
It's been a minute. You know what caught me off guard for a minute? He was literally talking about bank robbers and bank robberies, and I didn't even connect, or not connect, but call back to the video being called the North Hollywood Shootout. How the fuck did this bank robbery turn into a shootout?
But before we get into the mad lad, it is in fact your boy Raid Shadow Legends.
Raid Shadow Legends has taken over
Okay.
in American history, and one of the most violent armed robberies in American history. And the first robber we'll talk about is a man called Larry Eugene Phillips, who was born on the 20th of September 1970. We don't actually know where Larry was born because at the time of his birth, his parents were actually on the run from the law. His father had recently escaped from the Colorado State Reformatory, and his mother would later be jailed for drug smuggling. To prevent themselves from getting caught, they actually changed Larry's surname to Warfel, which they hoped would throw the scent off from the authorities. But they would end up getting a divorce when Larry was just 10 years old, and he would mostly stay with his mother in LA, at least when she wasn't getting arrested for being a drug mule. Despite all of the hardships that came with his parents' criminal lifestyles, Larry really looked up to his dad as a role model. In fact, he even willingly changed his surname back to Phillips when he was old enough to do so, in honour of his dad. Larry very often seen his dad getting into fights with the police and also being taken away by the local authorities when he was growing up.
Okay, so right now we're getting a lot of information on it, so I'm just kind of chilling and listening until it gets to the crazier part, and then I think I'll have way more to say. But for right now, we're just learning about Phillips. Odd enough, though, his picture did look like a kid that... I feel like, did that picture look like a kid that you went to school with? Like, that's just what popped into my mind when that popped up. I was like, what the heck? And his last name's even Phillips.
Over time, this made Larry
Life of crime.
harbour a seething hatred towards the police, and ultimately led him to begin his own career in crime. The earliest
Villain
known crime
backstory.
that we know Larry committed was in 1989, where he stole $400 worth of goods from affluent neighbourhoods in LA. He would then go on to do real estate scams. These scams involved him telling a client that he had a
This dude gained XP from the $400 he stole and went into real estate scams to just level it up.
property for sale, only for the client to then discover afterwards that Larry did not own the property and the building was already occupied.
Yeah.
But by that point, it was too late and Larry had already ran off with the cash.
No way.
However, this never really got Larry anywhere because he got caught and he was forced to pay $140,000 in damages to his victims. Despite this, Larry would try and learn from his mistakes and would attempt to conceal his identity from future victims. However, this very often involved stealing his own brother's ID and potentially framing his own brother for fraud if he ever got caught. Larry's own father saw him as a criminal genius and basically described him as an exact clone of himself. And what's funny
Wow.
is that instead of remembering his son with normal family photographs like everyone else does, he instead collected newspaper clippings documenting his son's crimes. And he even framed his son's mugshot photo. I mean, yeah, he was proud of his son, but for all the wrong reasons. Larry's brother,
or technically all the right reasons in his head,
was a bit less charitable in his description of him, probably due to the whole nearly being framed for fraud thing. He said that Larry was very manipulative and would constantly try to rope people into his criminal schemes. And one such person was Larry's future partner in crime, Decibel Stefan Emilian Matasareanu, which...
What?
Decibel Stefan Emilian Matasareanu, which is a hell of a mouthful, so for the rest of the video, we're just going to call him Emil. Emil was born in Romania on the 19th of July, 1966, and he moved over to the United States with his mother when he was only 10 years old, and eventually became a fully naturalized citizen in 1988. Unlike the extremely confident and sociable Larry, Emil was described by his mother as being incredibly introverted due to enduring harsh amounts of bullying while he was growing up. Also, unlike Larry, Emil tried to make his American dream come true through good and honest work at first. He earned a partial income from being a computer software consultant, but he mainly helped his mother run a care home for the mentally disabled. Unfortunately, neither
Damn, so he has the good guy backstory, bad guy arc.
of these enterprises did all that well, as Emil's computer repair activities didn't actually earn him much money, and the care home was eventually forced to close due to the maltreatment of the patients. During one particular inspection, social workers were shocked to find a woman locked in the basement of the premises without any food or water. Also, during one particular incident with a patient, Emil received a very bad blow to the head, which required him to get brain surgery. He would, from that point on, continue to suffer from epileptic seizures on an infrequent basis.
Imagine if they train the people who take care of patients and stuff like that with some sort of combat sport or combat art. That'd be what seems a lot more efficient for working with those kinds of jobs, because bro, no way, bro, that would be so fucking that'd be so unfortunate to go through.
Emil's family always found themselves in a financial struggle, as his mother would constantly borrow to make rent, and at one point they were behind around $4,000 worth of tax payments. And it's these desperate circumstances that would make Emil easy pickings for Larry to recruit him in many of his criminal enterprises. Both men first met at a Gold's Gym in Venice Beach, LA, sometime around 1989, and both men quickly formed a bond over their shared interests, which included weightlifting, bodybuilding, and a very, very keen interest in firearms. Larry eventually convinced Emil to become his henchman in the many criminal schemes that he would plot out. Emil was described by his family as not having the confidence to be viewed as an equal partner to Larry, so very often Emil would just do whatever Larry told him. This absolutely isn't to say that Emil was stupid though. In fact, part of the reason that Larry took a liking to Emil is because he was really intelligent. Emil would very often analyse criminal reports from the police and made notes as to how he and Larry could improve their own chances of getting...
Ooh, okay, so the brain damage didn't do too much to him? That's cool. Human body is crazy.
...getting away with scams and robberies. Within a year of meeting, however, Larry became an aggressively domineering part of Emil's life, despite being 4 years younger than him. Larry's brother described this as a deliberate tactic that Larry would use, saying that he would break your mind down and then build it up again so that you would become one of his crew.
Literally like the military.
This even extended to Emil's choice.
That is literally like military. ...of
personal relationships. Larry would actually constantly berate Emil about pursuing American women because, and I quote, they have a habit of talking back. Now we all know that that is not true. It's not just American women. In fact, when Emil went back to Romania to bring his grandmother over to the States, Larry insisted that he meet and marry a woman while he was over there. It's quite the wingman. In 1990, Emil would return to California with his grandmother and newlywed wife, who he'd go on to have a few kids with.
Okay.
After Emil returned to America, Larry decided that it was time to start making some big money, as opposed to continuing their small-scale operations. And as the two men had an enthusiasm for firearms, the natural next step
was bank
was
robbery.
to become armed robbers.
Yeah, okay.
Their first major score that we know of took place on the 20th of July 1993. The two men targeted an armoured van which was transferring money to the First Bank's Littleton branch in Colorado. The men had been making notes on the scheduled routes, timetables and procedures associated with the cash transfer.
It's interesting to hear about people who were actually playing Payday 2.
As the driver and his assistant were unlocking the van, the men ambushed them with AK-47s.
Damn.
And had them quickly load the money into bags, and then they sped off before the cops arrived. Shortly after this success, however, Larry and Emil got pulled over for speeding in Glendale, northeast LA. The police searched the car and discovered that the men were packing 3 AK-47s, some explosives, smoke bombs, and thousands of...
My bad. They're playing Payday 2 and Rainbow Six Siege. Why did they have all this for an armored car?
...rounds of ammunition. One of the investigating officers actually went as far as to describe it as a bank robbery kit. Despite all of that, though, the two men only served a 100-day sentence with 3 years of probation, which ended in January of 1996. They even actually managed to get their guns back after they met a few bail conditions, meaning that they would still be able to go out and commit armed robberies without having to source new guns. On the 4th...
Not a shot, bro. Bro, what was the police system, bro? Bro, what in the fuck? 100-day sentence and then 3 years probation, and they got basically their whole Rust kit back. What? Nice.
14th of June 1990.
It's almost like certain situations you hear about, like this video, and it's like, oh, they were just asking for them to rob a bank. They were like, let's let them out so they can commit more crimes, just so we have something to do. Because, bro, how do you... How, bro? How do they get out?
95. Larry and Emil targeted another armoured van just outside of the Winnetka Avenue branch of the Bank of America. Though the robbers still managed to get away with the money,
they got pulled over
the guards fought back this time.
Oh.
Unfortunately, resulting in one of the guards being killed and another guard being very badly wounded. Though these van raids would be pulling in a fair amount of cash, Larry and Emil wanted much, much more. So instead of targeting armoured...
It's always criminals. They don't know when to quit. Look, they wanted much, much more. Why not just get away with this amount of cash?
Vans stopping off at the banks, the men decided to go after the banks themselves.
Wow.
Their main tactic
Smart
would
choice.
be to cover themselves head to toe in armour, drawing inspiration from a potential Aussie mad lad. Larry would hand stitch an entire bodysuit made from a material called aramid, which would make him practically invincible to small arms fire. Emil only wore armour that covered his torso so that he could remain more mobile, but he added a thick metal plate to his tactical vest which would deflect heavier rounds. They armed themselves with AK-47s and armour-piercing rounds, as the bulletproof windows and doors protecting the tellers in the banks were only designed to withstand fire from handguns and shotguns. After getting everyone on the ground, one of the robbers would force the manager to open the vault and fill their bags with cash. After this, they would then run to their car and drive off before the police arrived. And they would aim to do all of this within 8 minutes maximum, as this is how long they had estimated the police response time to be. They would successfully hit 2 Bank of America branches in May of 1996, securing around $1.7 million, adding in...
Wait. This was an army of 2? This was 2 guys that were able to do this? Or they had way more people in on it? They must have, right? It must have been like literally like a whole Payday thing. Well, Payday and included members. Because in Payday, you go in with 4 people. There's no shot, bro. That is insane.
In the armoured van raids, their total score amounted to around $2
I was about to say a really fucked up joke.
million.
Damn.
And after the police linked all of these heists to the same suspects, they were dubbed the High Incident Bandits because of the terror tactics and over-the-top equipment that they used. By this point, the bandits
It was literally just 2 of them.
Thought
They had to get a getaway driver, bro. There's no way. I need to know more about like each specific robbery. It's really just them 2 on camera that they look geared out like 2 counter-terrorists. Or not the counter-terrorists, the terrorist side in Counter-Strike.
They were on a good roll. And after having treated themselves to new houses and lavish cars, they prepared for their next heist.
No, they don't know when to give
up. The
up.
Bank of America branch in Laurel Canyon Boulevard.
They should have given up.
North Hollywood.
Here we
go. By
go.
all accounts, it was looking to be just another usual heist for the bandits. They used the same body armour, the same guns, and synced up their stopwatches in accordance with the police response time.
Oh, shoot.
The bank itself wasn't particularly special either, just a small local branch which they hoped to get a good $750,000 from. But small and gradual changes in their luck would make this robbery far different from all the others.
What do you guys think it is? Let me have a question for the audience. What do you guys think it is? What makes them go? Is it the adrenaline? Is it the sheer amount of just wanting to experience more money? They had 1.7 million by this point, and probably more from their other small operations, houses, cars. It must be the thrill. Why else would you keep going? Like, no. This is where you quit. 17 minutes in. This is where Count Dankula ends the video and says, and to this day, they never were caught. And happy ending for a couple of bad dudes. But no. It becomes the North Hollywood Shootout. I don't understand that. I'll never understand it. You know, I was about to say something even more fucked. I'm about to be like, hey, if you're a criminal watching this video, don't do what they did. But no, I'm not going to say that. Don't be a criminal. Yeah. And that's all. And yeah, let's continue the video.
The bandits decided to strike on the 28th of February 1997. They got out from their parked car and started walking towards the bank entrance at 9:17 a.m.
So it's really just them two. That's
However,
insane.
their carefully calculated police response time went completely out the window. Because just as they were walking into the bank, a squad car was just going past and spotted the two Ned Kelly cops.
See, this is why you don't do this. Karma's going to catch up to you. They were so calculated all times before, but you never can be too calculated. It's like that saying for a fight. When you go into a fight, you can't really expect anything. You can only be prepared for what's to come, but you can't go in expecting anything, or it could play out totally different. And here's that. Karma caught them. That's why you don't be a criminal.
Cosplayers
Came right back
walking
around.
into the bank
He said
with massive
cosplayers.
assault rifles. Sensibly suspecting that an armed robbery was about to take place, the squad car called for backup.
No, you don't say.
This is the actual call.
Oh, there's footage. Oh, this is National Geographic, so they're
Upon entering the bank, the men
acting it out. Okay.
immediately let off rounds from their AKs and got everyone on the ground. Again, it was the same plan as before. Shoot the glass, get access to the vault, bag the cash, and be
leave.
back home in time for breakfast.
Yeah. They really went in Army of Two style. That's insane to me.
However, when Larry accompanied the manager to the vault, instead of a massive stack of cash waiting for him, the manager completely cleared the vault with only $300,000 in total. It turns out that the Bank of America deliberately varied the times of its cash deliveries each week.
Oh, yeah, makes sense.
Despite Emil and Larry's extensive prep work, it was basically all down to luck how much money would be in the vault. Even worse was the fact that because of new company policy, the manager couldn't even open the ATMs, meaning that the bandits were only leaving with a fraction of the money they were expecting to get.
Damn.
Larry got into such a fit of rage about it that he just started spraying bullets into the vault, destroying the remaining piles of cash.
Whoa.
And as if that wasn't bad enough, a die pack that was in the bag amongst the money had actually exploded, making most of the $300,000 they had just stolen completely worthless.
Wow.
You can just imagine how frustrated the bandits were getting at this whole situation. But the bad luck didn't stop there. As all of this was going on, responding squad cars were flooding in, surrounding the bank and blocking every possible escape route. As the two bandits exited the bank at 9:24 a.m, they were shocked to see that they were completely surrounded by police. They thought that they still had the 8-minute response time because they never actually noticed the squad car that saw them go into the bank. As far as professional bank robbery goes, Literally every single thing that a bank robber would
Didn't
not
want to
go
literally went wrong.
Went wrong.
That's so unfortunate.
Despite
bruh.
being so heavily outnumbered, and after a half-a-minute standoff, the bandits raised their rifles and started spraying automatic fire at all of the police.
Damn.
At this point, you're probably thinking that this was just going to be an instance of suicide by cop, but the bandits probably did think that they could still get away. As I said before, the bandits wore armour which would protect them from pistol and shotgun fire.
But they
Well,
came.
in 1997, those exact firearms were the only types that LA cops had access to.
Oh, so they got destroyed.
The robbers' armour was that good that even a close-range blast from a shotgun
Wouldn't do
anything
Wow.
more than make the bandits feel like they'd just been pushed a little. The only way for the police to take the bandits down was to line up a perfect shot to the head.
Oh, to the headshot.
However,
okay.
the handguns they were using were very inaccurate at the ranges they were firing from. And because the bandits were laying down...
I forgot the time frame of when they're robbing the bank, so how it made it simpler to do it in a time like this, but that's still crazy.
constant automatic fire, the police didn't have time to carefully line up a shot. So why didn't the police have access to weapons that would have helped them deal with situations like this? Armed robberies in LA were basically a dime a dozen at this point, so it wouldn't make sense for them to be so under-equipped for the job. Well, it turns out that this was done for political reasons. On the 3rd of March 1991, a certain black fellow named Rodney King was beaten up by LA police after being pulled over for driving while black. The cops involved all got acquitted of wrongful conduct, which sparked the LA race riots of 1992. We spoke about all of this in the Roof Koreans video.
Yeah.
But after these riots, local
remember
politicians were very wary of increasing the arsenal of the police in fear of this gesture causing further, mostly peaceful protests. So,
Bro, his pauses are well timed with that. Oh man.
that is why the police were still limited to just shotguns and handguns.
Mostly peaceful protests.
The police had been begging for the state authorities to allow cops on the beat to have access to an AR-15 in their vehicle, and despite the police presenting evidence that criminals were able to get their hands on some very powerful armour and weaponry, this request was always refused by Californian politicians. Well, this decision was now having its consequences. The bandits were not only able to withstand the police fire, but the bandits, remember, are using armour-piercing rounds, which meant that when the police were taking cover behind their squad
It didn't
cars,
matter because the
bandits were just
armored-piercing
shooting
rounds.
straight through the cars and hitting the police behind them, severely injuring them. And also, a lot of pedestrians were also getting wounded by stray bullet fire from the bandits, meaning that this decision had put both the police and the public in massive danger.
Yeah, holy
The media were soon beginning to swoop in, both on foot and in helicopters, to get a better view of what was happening. And it turns out that even those in the helicopters weren't safe.
Oh
as
yeah,
the
'cause you could
bandits
just shoot the
even
helicopter.
started shooting at them. This was already an unprecedented situation, but what happened next made the shootout even more strange. 7 minutes into the firefight,
This is
Emil
only
had
7
obviously identified that this was the perfect time to make a clean getaway without having police cars immediately on their tail.
Okay.
Emil ran to their getaway car and screamed at Larry, telling him to get in. But Larry refused and continued to fight the police. Given what we know about Larry, he probably knew how much of a disadvantage the police were at.
Oh yeah, and his
he
armor.
probably wanted to take his frustration of the botched heist out on them.
Damn. This is real footage? Oh! He was heavily armored, bruh. Oh, they started bringing in some assault rifles. Bro, there is a reporter here. Bro, this reporter is brave. Get out of here. Hang on. This reporter right here is brave, bro. This is the actual footage. This is the insane part of the video to me. To be a reporter here, that is insane. He's not even safe ducking through this. Like, he could get head tapped. That's insane. I don't know where the angle. I want to kind of see them try to get an angle. Oh wait, it's not just the reporter, it's the cameraman too. Like, there's always that meme that the cameraman doesn't exist, or it shows like the POV of the cameraman. Bro, they are bugged. They are not ready, bro. Look at him. He's just sitting because no one could land a headshot on your boy. He's not even keeping his head low. He's just keeping it kind of like... Let me see.
It was only 10 minutes into the fighting, and there was already a lot of police and civilians getting very heavily wounded. Frantic attempts were now being made not to kill the bandits, but to rescue the seriously injured officers and pedestrians.
Oh no, and let me guess, while the rescuing started to commence, he started to spray them
before they bled to death. A nearby dental surgery was able to provide shelter for one of the officers who had received a pretty painful shot to the back. The dentist even attempted to dress the wound and used the local anaesthetic he had to treat the pain. It may not have been the treatment that the officer needed,
but it
was enough to
yeah.
buy him some time for the medics to eventually get to him.
Yeah.
Though they were able to rescue the officers located further away from the line of fire, the police were unable to reach the officers and pedestrians stranded in the areas closer to the bandits. Some officers became so desperate that they visited a nearby gun store called B&B, and the store owner allowed the officers to take whatever
Okay, so that's why they started having rifles
needed without even processing the receipts.
Yeah, I bet.
And I okayed the plan of action, which was to loan them a number of weapons and fill a number of magazines with ammunition for them and send them on their way. And
how does someone even become a gun dealer?
Basically, all we did was what I think any reasonable person would do under the circumstances.
It was just at this moment that SWAT teams finally began to arrive on the scene. Apparently, they were called upon so urgently that some of the members who were out for a training run just shoved on a tactical vest and turned up wearing their tank tops and running shorts. The SWAT team was soon able to commandeer an armoured van, which, ironically, was on its way to make a delivery to the very bank that was being robbed. And due to the van providing more than enough cover, the SWAT team was able to successfully rescue the rest of the wounded officers and civilians around the bank. Larry probably sensed that the tide was turning and decided that now would be a good time to finally escape. But he didn't jump in the car right away and make a quick takeoff.
Oh God, what did
Instead,
he do?
he walked slowly beside the car to give Emil some covering fire whilst he started to drive. And what's really chilling is that even though SWAT and better armed officers were arriving on the scene, the police radio operators still advised for officers in the bandits' path to not engage them for their own safety. Despite this, the police didn't exactly want two dangerous men to escape, especially after these men had downed so many of their fellow officers. So the cops shot out all of the tyres of their getaway vehicle.
Ooh, that's smart.
Which made Larry abandon Emil and try to make his own escape attempt on foot. Larry
He's
made
bugged.
his way around the corner from the bank and then took cover behind a lorry. The police then surrounded all possible exits, so Larry would be forced to fight no matter where he went. As he continued to move forward and fire at oncoming police, one officer managed to score a lucky hit on Larry's unprotected thumb, blowing it clean off. Though Larry could continue to fire, this injury made it impossible for him to clear a bullet that had suddenly jammed inside his AK. So at this point, Larry simply threw his AK down and drew his pistol and started firing back at the officer. However, the reality of the situation was beginning to dawn on Larry. He realised that the chance of him escaping without getting killed or arrested was pretty much zero.
Mm-hmm.
So Larry decided to end the fight on his own terms. He took his pistol, put it under his chin, and said goodnight. Though that was one of the bandits taken care of, the other was still on the loose, albeit in a trundling, bullet-ridden wreck of a car. Emil was already injured at this point and was desperate to make a quick getaway. As he was driving through the streets, he spotted a yellow Jeep coming towards him, which he intended to use as his new getaway vehicle. Performing the tried and true GTA method, he fired at the windscreen of the Jeep, frightening the driver into getting out and running away. Emil then proceeded to load all of his stuff into the Jeep and hopped in. But then he suddenly realised that he couldn't turn the ignition on because the driver had made sure to take his keys with him when he ran off. The cheeky bastard. At this point,
this is the real oh my gosh.
A squad car had screeched to a halt in front of the Jeep, with police armed with rifles quickly taking up positions beside Emil. Emil hobbled back behind his original getaway car and began firing on police again. The police were unable to get a clear shot at Emil's head, but soon realised that they could shoot at his legs from underneath the car.
Damn.
It took about 29 bullets to the legs before Emil finally went down and offered his surrender to the police. The last shot was fired at 10:04 a.m, meaning that the gunfight had lasted for 44 minutes. It was estimated that the bandits had fired around 1,200 bullets throughout the whole battle, which averages to around a bullet being fired at least once every 2 seconds.
Wow.
When the police finally handcuffed him, Emil refused to cooperate in any question and repeatedly screamed at the police to shoot him in the head. The police did call for an ambulance for him, however, EMTs weren't allowed to enter what's called a hot zone, which is an area where the police and medics believe that a shooter is still active. And because there was so much confusion as to how many shooters there actually
were, because it was a lot of rounds.
Ambulances were only able to arrive 70 minutes after Emil had surrendered. And because of this delay, they didn't make it in time, and Emil bled to death. Aside from the shooters, in what has to be an absolute miracle, no one actually died from what was I was
wondering that. I was like, wait, he has not said anybody has died this entire time. I'm like, how many casualties? That's what I kept saying in my head. I'm glad. That is an actual just great thing to hear. No one died. That's crazy,
brutal
bro.
Shootouts in American criminal history. 12 officers and 8 civilians were injured, with some being permanently disabled. One officer was...
That's kind of worse than death, though, I'm not going to lie. Permanently disabled?
So traumatized by what happened that he immediately quit the force and became a youth pastor. The absolute bravery and selflessness of many of these officers was rightly rewarded, with 19 of them receiving the Medal of Valor and getting to meet the President of the United States. However, the praise...
I'm not gonna lie. Never mind. No, I'm not gonna lie. I would have just been happier with, like... Okay, like, come on. What does the medal and fucking meeting the president fucking matter? Come on now. I would have been low-key sick for, like, rushing into danger, saving everyone. Like, I would have been happy just doing it for the purpose of saving everyone, but to hear my reward was a fucking medal and meeting a guy in a suit, bro, what? Yeah. Who runs the country? Big whooped, bro.
Wasn't entirely universal. Emil's family tried to sue some of the arresting officers for negligence by allegedly allowing Emil to bleed out. The case ended up not going anywhere, and the family was forced to withdraw from legal action, or else they would have gotten charged themselves for malicious prosecution.
Wow.
If there was anything good to come out of this whole ordeal,
makes sense though. Come on now.
It was that public perception soon changed from suspicion to adoration of ordinary cops in LA. It also finally convinced politicians to actually care about the safety and protection of ordinary police officers. The law was changed so that LA cops had access to an AR-15 in the trunk of their car, with many other states following suit. In 2003, a TV movie called 44 Minutes was aired, and it based itself on the events of the North Hollywood shootout. But what's strange about this, however, is the fact that the shootout itself might have been inspired by a movie. When police investigated Larry's home, they had found a finished VHS tape of the movie Heat, whose final scene very closely resembled the actions taken by the bandits. So if we were to assume that the movie Heat inspired the bandits' final stand against the police, we could say that 44 Minutes is art imitating life.
Yeah, literally, art imitates life. That's insane.
Which in turn imitated art. In 2004, the LAPD Museum would debut an exhibit on the North Hollywood shootout.
Now I see exactly why you guys wanted me to watch this.
The displays showcased the bandits' gear, their getaway vehicle, and the other police vehicles which were shot out during the battle.
Yeah.
And apparently some of the officers present at the shootout who attended the opening ceremony got so emotional at seeing these items again that they were immediately brought to tears.
Damn, they were
most
traumatized.
Police, in their hearts, are extremely brave and honourable people who are more than prepared to risk their lives to protect others. You know, hashtag not all and all that. You know,
he said hashtag not all cops and all that. Oh, that's great.
Ones that are killing suspects or arresting people for tweets. But you know, let's not tar them all with the same brush. But Larry and Emil's crime spree was brought to an end just by two cops being in the right place
at the right time.
At the right time. Or the wrong time. I mean, I wouldn't have wanted to have been there.
It's Count Dankula on YouTube. Everybody just
I need to know the story behind him and Alex Jones, bro. Oh, that's great. That was insane. But of course, getting to the end of the video to know that was a situation of art imitates reality, or in this case, reality imitates art. That's really insane, bro. Cause as like seeing the footage of it, the real footage that he started putting in there, that was crazy. Dude just stopped through the gun. It looked like a movie. I wonder if in the movie they used real clips of the shootout. You know how they do that sometimes where they blend the clips together? Or wait, no, because Heat was, they were inspired by it, so never mind. But did he say it inspired a movie after? That's insane, bro. What a mad lad. And that was literally absolute mad lads. Like, that was 2 guys doing all this. That's insane. It'd be crazy if they ended up finding out that, like, all their other robberies were, like, inspired off of things they seen. That's insane, bro. Alright, well, that's another mad lad out the way. That one was, I would say, I like the Korean shootout one a lot more. Or whatever that one was. I can't remember the name of it. And then Gustav is still my favorite. Gustav was insane, and Gustav's still out there to this day. But this one was okay. I think it's insane that it was 2 guys. I thought it was more. I literally thought it was more the entire time. And then what's even cooler to just like hear at the end of this is that no one was actually killed. Because that's insane that they were firing that many rounds per second and no one was like fatally, well, they were fatally injured but not like completely killed. But I still think being disabled though, permanently disabled, that's worse than death. So yeah, holy shit, what a shootout. All right, well, much love and moonlight on that note. Don't rob banks.